It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. We're back in the studio. We feel like we're back home again where we belong. We're coming to you from the world headquarters of Remodel Revolution, deep in the heart of the great state of Texas. We have a fantastic show today. I sure have missed you. Now, I know I've been doing a few shows from home, but it's just not the same. I don't have Ziggy, I don't have the studio. And so here I am, and I'm a happy camper today, and I hope you are all doing well. Today's show, we have a fantastic guest, Bess Dixon. Bess Dixon. Bess is a global real estate advisor with Briggs Freeman, Sotheby International Realty. And we're going to talk about if you buy a house or when you buy a house and you're going to remodel the house, how she advises you, how she would advise you on values, and maybe she can help you on where to look if you have specific reasons, like you might be looking for different, schools for kids or something near work or different reasons. So you're going to buy a house, you want to do some work on it. I know that I get this question a lot. I know she gets it 10 times a day. How much should I put into that house? I don't want to outbuild the neighborhood or outvalue the neighborhood. So we're going to talk to Bess in just a little bit, in a few minutes. But first, of course, we're all dealing with this COVID-19. And one of the reasons that I asked Bess to be here is Bess is a cancer survivor. And I'm reading stories right now that are really disturbing me about people that are not surviving by their own hand, people that are getting to a point to where I read a story this morning about a gentleman that had lost his job and he took his life yesterday. And I want you to know that I have, and we all have our stories. Every one of us has our stories. And many of us have survived things that we think are unsurvivable, challenges that are put up in front of us, and we think there's no way I'm going to get through this. And you get to a point in life where you're just wondering if it's worth keeping going. Mm-hmm. It is. You will get through this. We will all get through this. I have a monologue I want to read, and then we're going to talk to Bess about her story. During our lives, there are moments in time that reset and redirect us as individuals and as a society. Events that we're not prepared for, cataclysms that seemingly arrive at the silence of the night, like a bad dream that we just can't wake from. More than just a dream, this pandemic, once considered an inconvenient anomaly, is now altering the very way we will carry on our lives for years to come. Many of us, including me, want to wish it away and return to the crowded highways, noisy restaurants, the packed theaters and shopping malls, running as fast as we can to keep up with a crazy world staring straight ahead so we can avoid running into the wall. But in the year 2020, it will be known throughout history that we were forced to hit the brakes on our plans and realign our priorities. We are now required to look past ourselves and contribute to the well-being of our friends, neighbors, and indeed perfect strangers that we didn't know existed in our small universe just 3 months ago. Now we must work together to survive, or we risk calamity and collapse. It sounds harsh, but to be perfectly frank, I believe that this is a wake-up call that someday will be seen as a turning point in history, a time that brought families together by tearing at the very fabric of our existence. Someday in the future, we might look back and be thankful that life brought us together, that events caused us to protect each other, and that we finally reconnected with our humanity as it pertains to the whole of our very existence. So let's be clear about one thing: we will survive. Not because of science or politics, not because of summer or winter, but because we are resilient and we are warriors at heart. As I've said before, nature has been trying to eliminate life since the very beginning of time, but life has a way of overcoming the odds, and we will prevail. So my friends, have faith, stay strong, and say I love you with absolute abandon. Those are my words today. Send me an email or a message and tell me what you think about it. And now I want to introduce my friend, Bess Dixon. Hello, Bess.
Howdy, Alex. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm fantastic. We're
Absolutely.
back. And it's so fantastic to have you here with me.
Well, thank you.
I think that
at a safe distance.
yeah, we're social distancing in the studio. It's amazing. You have an amazing story of survival yourself, and I know we've talked about this, and many of us have stories of survival. And it's often so easy to get caught up in the moment and think there's just no way I'm going to get through this. So let's talk about
Absolutely.
Bess Dixon's story of survival.
Oh, golly.
And I appreciate you sharing with us.
Well, you're welcome. However I can help. I'm very humbled to be here every day. Every day. It's a gift. Every day's a gift. So survival. Well, found out I had triple negative breast cancer in the middle of a parking lot in November of 2017. I spent 2018 battling it. And so coming up July 20th of this year will be year 2 of being told I was free and
Wow.
clear. So it was
Free and clear.
free and clear. It was quite a
Wow.
surprise. When I went in for my follow-up checkup following a double mastectomy, my doctor, Dr. Lee at Parkland Medical Center, which Parkland is a, I'm going to shake just thinking about it, but it is you don't have to go to heaven to meet angels. You can just go to Parkland.
I'd stay on earth.
I tell you what, because it is a county hospital, so everyone is welcome there, and they are busy all the time. Pre-COVID, and I cannot even imagine what they're going through now as a family unit, because Parkland does run as a family unit. They are an amazing group of people.
So how
Anyway.
many times during your experience did you ever have one of those moments where you just thought this is it? Or when they first told you, what was your reaction?
Probably a bit unusual. I actually laughed.
Really?
I'm that awkward friend that you have that at a funeral. When faced with adversity, my first thought is, of course. So how are we going to win the game? And so laughter, I
So
guess.
you took it on.
So I took it on, right? Because we all have challenges. Some of them are less pleasant than others. I mean, some of them are, which shoes should I wear today? And others are, should I run the red light or should I wait?
I love your perspective.
And so mine was, well, do we give up and say, I guess I'm done, or just, well, okay, bring it on, let's do it. So my next deal is that I went and ran, because for me, running my entire life has been an opportunity to mental reboot mindset. And so I went and ran the Katy Trail. Put a plug in for one of my favorite charities, the Katy Trail.
That's fine. That's fine.
And got some perspective, and it's like, okay, what's next? So zipping back around to Dr. Lee, so on the 20th of July, 2018, for my follow-up from the double mastectomy, she came in and basically shrugged her shoulders and said, well, you did it. This appointment was supposed to be talking with you, sharing with you next steps, which was to be radiation and additional chemo. And she said, here's the test. And she showed me, and she had highlighted all these 5 sheets of all the testing that they had done. And she's like, look, it says 0, 0, 0, 0. She goes,
Wow.
it's completely gone. She goes, so I'm canceling all the rest of your treatment. You just
Wow.
keep on running.
Wow.
So
Wow. You
That's what
know, I also had in my lifetime a relationship with the fear of dying from disease. And and also, it's very interesting, when they went in to do biopsies on what they thought were tumors in my lungs, they pulled me out from the CT and woke me up and said, you can go home, we're giving you your money back. And I said, isn't that bad? And I mean, seriously, I thought, well, they're just sending me home because they're saying, what's the point? Well, they had gone away. In 6 weeks, they had gone away.
yay.
And that's when I woke up and said, God is good. And that's what made me wake up every morning and say, it's going to be another great day.
Absolutely. Another day in paradise.
That's
'cause we're
right.
here.
And the point of this discussion I wanted to have with all you folks out there, and I love all of you, each and every one of you so much, and appreciate you, is that sometimes you think it's the end of the road, and that's not necessarily true. You need to keep fighting, and you need to understand that life presents these things to you, and it's your job to overcome it. It's your job to take it on and do the best you can, and understand that you don't have to go to an extreme measure. It will be okay. Give tomorrow a chance. And as my friend Bess says, that's why what'd you say? That's why
Oh, I always tell my kiddos, it's like, that's why it's called earth and not heaven. Because if it was perfect, then what was the point?
Exactly.
So-
Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Oh,
Thank you
well, you're
so
sweet
much.
to ask.
That's really awesome. So let's get on with our show today. One of the things that happens in remodeling in particular is people are always telling me that they don't want to overspend. So they'll say, well, we want to do this, this, and this. This is our dream. But I don't want to outspend the neighborhood. I might sell in 5 years. I call it the 5-year plan. And trust me, folks, the 5-year plan turns into the 20-year plan before you know it. And of course, my advice to them is do whatever you do it the best you can do so that you enjoy it every day when you come home, because there's no way to do it cheap.
True that.
Right? And you don't want to come home and say, I wish I'd spent just a little more money. I've had people tell me, well, I hired this guy because he was the least expensive and I'm not quite happy with this or that. And I go, why'd you do that? You know? Well, I wanted to do the bathroom too. How do you advise homeowners when they ask you about values and things like that?
I start off,
I'm sorry. First of all, let's talk about what you do.
what do I?
Who are you? Who are you, lady?
I am a story listener, problem solving, a challenge solving. I don't like to use the word problem. It sounds like a 4-letter word. A challenge solving specialist for people that need a place to call home. And so far, most people I meet with prefer not to live in a tent. So
That's where they're calling you.
right. So there you go. Yeah.
And so people will call you with what types of challenges in their homes?
The universe energy that I seem to be surrounded with seems to be drawing people that have a particular area they want to live in, but don't necessarily have the budget to have the best home in that neighborhood. And so together, we generally find the home that can be financed, which is not necessarily the worst home, because the worst home, especially inside 635 in Dallas, would be bulldozer bait.
Right.
Right? Our friends at the Dallas Builder Association would jump on that. But
Yeah.
so we get just one step above that, where it can still be financed And once we're in it, we create their 10.
Now, I have a question for you because I have a theory about this, but having been born and raised in Dallas and spent my whole life here and my entire life in the building industry, I remember when 635 didn't exist.
Right? That was way out
I
there.
don't want to date myself, even when I had hair. And the area between, I grew up near Northwest Highway, so there was it went up to almost Forest Lane, and then there was just nothing. It was cotton fields, literally. And so the production builders came in after LBJ was put in. The production builders came in and filled all that in, and that's fine. That's great. And they built some beautiful neighborhoods and wonderful homes, but they were designed just to last 30, 40 years, maybe 40. And they weren't particularly great quality, but I mean, there was a lot of things because we didn't have the things back then that we have now. We didn't have the building products. We didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have a lot. We were just plopping houses down as fast as we could because people wanted to buy them. Energy was cheap, so you weren't worried about energy efficiency. Forced air conditioning, central air and heat was brand new. It was just coming into the market, and it was still in its infancy science-wise. I mean, nobody knew anything about it. They just stuck it in there to keep people cool in the summer.
Right?
And so now we're at this point where do you remodel that house or do you bulldoze that house? There's some value, there's some way of reaching this value of yes or no. How do you determine that? Is it just numbers?
Is it just no? Golly, what a loaded question.
I'm going to get you in trouble.
It is anything done well ages well. Anything done on the cheap probably does need to be redone. Homes in the 70s, which I believe is what you're alluding to, no, they have not aged super well because that was when the big builders really hit. The whole idea of spec homes,
the
production, well said,
spec
really
home
hit,
builders, yeah.
and they were still figuring that out. Also in the 70s, if you recall, there was a gas crisis. And so most homes built in the 70s and early 80s are electric-only homes.
And there was a copper shortage, so a lot of them have
Right.
aluminum wiring. There's all sorts of.
So to answer your question, I would have to say it's almost a decade-specific answer.
Very interesting.
I mean, because a home built like the M Streets in Dallas, primarily Tudor style, which was really the big thing in the 30s, those homes are built solid.
Yes.
They are not going anywhere. They have been pushed and shoved by the elements and by well-meaning but often poorly chosen handyman moments. And they still are beautiful old ladies up and down gorgeous oak tree-lined streets.
Well, it's like there's a certain type of buyer that is going to gravitate towards that beautiful old antique looking house. And then there's a different buyer. And these are the people that I'm dealing with both sets all the time that doesn't want that. They want new, brand new, out of the box, like buying a new car. I want that new car smell. I want everything that goes with that. And then there's the person that says, I'll take a 1965 Volkswagen Beetle, and I'll rebuild that sucker, and I'll drive it with pride. I'll love that car. Is that sort of the same attitude in home buyers?
Very similar, I believe. Yes. Let's face it, an older home, and that's really technically defined as anything built, golly, if we want to be strict about it, an older home defined as anything that was built not using the current International Building Code.
So
Technically speaking, that means a home
90s.
built in 2015.
Yeah,
Right? Because
yeah.
the newest building code came out
Really?
in
That's
18.
interesting.
If you think about it,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're, when you define new home or, yeah, well, I guess a newer home as one that is built to current standards,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're talking about, right? So it just all depends.
So yesterday
Terrible
I
answer,
looked at
but-
a house that was built in the 80s. Mm-hmm. It's in DeSoto, Texas, which is south of Dallas. And I probably knew the builder. Probably still do. I don't know who it was, but I probably knew him. At any rate, I go through this house and it has not been touched. I mean, it is literally like it was the day they bought it. Same carpet, I think. Same everything, same floor, same
So
cabinet.
was it Miami Vice turquoise? Because then you'd know.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, no, it's beige, but it's dirty beige.
There you go. So it was replaced. It was replaced. There's your tell.
And then the master bathroom has all the cultured marble everything,
Mm-hmm.
and you just walk in there and gag, and so the entire house, interior of the house, has to be redone. It's got popcorn ceilings. It's got all the stuff that you
Mm-hmm.
see that over the years no one's actually really touched, and it was cared for. So here's what I look for, and this is something that maybe you talk to your clients about. I go around and the first thing I look for is the foundation. I look to see, are there cracks in the foundation, are there cracks in the walls, are there cracks in the brick? Is the house holding up well structurally? So I walk through this whole house and I notice, wow, no, it's solid. How do I know it's solid? Well, I walk into the garage and I look at the garage floor. That's the big tell for me. Not a crack in it, which is really, really rare, real rare in
Right.
a house that old in Texas. And so I tell the owner, and she's just buying this house, and I said, you have got fantastic bones in this house. This is a house that I would not hesitate at all to go in and completely redo it and feel like I've really invested into a home, because it's going to be there another 30 or 40 years or longer. Is that kind of what you're advising? I mean, is that what you're looking for when people are coming to you trying to figure out what to do with a house?
Yes, I mean, you definitely want to look at the bones, right? But you also want to look at the area as a whole and how that fits with their lifestyle. And I guess I'm focusing in on the home buyer owner, not the home investor, because that's two different buying profiles, two different focuses, I guess. But for both groups, yes, you start with the bones, and then you decide. Then you decide.
Then you decide your investment.
Your investment level,
Yeah,
and I get and how does that match with your dream level?
Right,
I mean,
right.
because cash on hand and dreams are not always
Compatible.
friends.
They're not always
So,
compatible.
compatible.
Hey, we're
right.
going to take a quick break. I kind of talked right through it. I've got to get back into the habit of being in the studio, and Ziggy was just pointing the red dot on the middle of my forehead from his gun. We need to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The hardest working and arguably most important system in our homes is our air conditioning and heating system. It heats the air, it cools the air, and it filters the air. That's why it's so critical to have it checked and maintained by the very best professionals available. It's time to contact Total Air and Heat at totalair.com. Get that system pruned and tuned. If you want to have the very best experience, you've got to hire the very best company. Total Air's employees are honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background checked. I never have to worry worry about sending their technicians out to my clients' homes. Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Total Air and Heat has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. Total Air is a proud dealer of the Trane air conditioning systems, and you know how hard it is to stop a train, so give them a call at 972-881-0020. That's 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today. Welcome back. We are here with Bess Dixon with Briggs Freeman, Soothby International Realty. Did I say that right?
Close.
Okay, close enough.
Close.
She's a global real estate advisor. And one of the things Bess is really involved in is the preservation market.
Yes.
And so are you like a preservationist?
I am a certified historic home specialist. Yes.
What does that mean?
That means I have dug in and to find out about the history as much as about the structure of the home. Because especially when you get to those homes that are historic, meaning over 50 years old, there's a lot of heart in that home.
Right.
Like if those walls could talk, right?
Right,
It
right.
should be a show.
Right. Actually, it is.
It is, yeah, that's the home. That's the Preservation Dallas home.
That's where I got that.
Nice.
I have felt like, and I think I told you this, and I've said many times, that every time an older home is torn down, and I'm talking about houses built in the 40s. I've worked on houses that were built pre-1900 all the way up to, new homes. I'm working on one right now, or just finished one that has never been occupied, but I was hired to remodel it. That's how good I am. But I feel like every time we tear down an old house, we take history away from ourselves. It's almost like we're chipping away at what made us, or who made us what we are.
And it's also counterintuitive to so much that essentially, not to profile, but the whole 40 and under crowd age group that are saying, and rightly so, good life to live by statements. Green, let's be more green. Let's recycle, reduce, reuse. Hello, old homes are the ultimate, because what happens to an old home if it's torn down? It goes into a landfill, which is counterintuitive to everything we're saying now. We're worried about plastic straws in the ocean, and yet we're fine with dumping thousands of pounds. The local garbage authority talked about one time that, what was it? It was insane. You probably saw it too, Alex. It's like 71% of the landfill use was for construction.
Yeah, material.
Material,
Yeah.
which a good chunk of that is old homes being torn down, which is
Well,
sad.
an interesting part of this discussion, when you're talking about if you buy an older home or you're considering an older home, is that we have advances now in construction that will enable you to bring it up to code. Now, it's expensive. I don't think it's any more expensive than building a house,
Agreed.
but you can bring it up to code. You can insulate the walls. There's lots of advances in technology that are now that we're using in remodeling, and it starts in the new home industry. I mean, the
Trickle down.
it's trickled down.
It's a
now,
trickle
now a
down.
new builder will tell you it's trickled down because a remodeler's down, but I'm telling you, we're smarter than you guys think.
Well, you got to figure it out for a living.
But we're taking technologies that they're using in new home building and energy efficiency, and we're adapting them to the remodeling. And so you can think about having a house that's 100 years old that has the charm of the 100-year-old house, but has the technology of the modern home.
It can be done.
Yes.
Yes.
And it is absolutely wonderful
It's
to be able to do it. And they can come out. And here's what I love about older houses. You can use I'm very creative. So you use
I get to use all of my creativity, all of the things that challenge me as a contractor, as a as a business person, because I have to figure out how to do it where it's cost effective for
Right.
the homeowner.
Biggest bang for the buck.
Yes, absolutely. And now I have technologies that are allowing me to do that as I learn to understand them easier and easier. And there's also technologies coming out that I don't always agree with. I don't always think that everything that they do is the right thing. I have a lot of discussions with remodelers and builders that there's certain things that code requirements that we go, well, that just doesn't fit this. That doesn't fit this type of house or whatever.
Which you're touching on something that's really, I think, a huge check mark or plus in the column of should you tear down or should you keep. And that is older homes are grandfathered in. They have grandfather privileges.
That's
and
true.
so you
Yeah.
actually, unlike a new build home, a historic home, an older home, you get to literally pick and choose which of the building codes you'd really want to follow for this particular instance. So you get to insert a lot of common sense into the building code, which is a privilege only granted to older homes, not to new builds.
And that's true, and I hadn't really thought about that. That's great advice. So the thing is people, a certain type of there's a certain type of person that really likes the comfort of that older home. We have now, you and I have seen these generations change. So we've seen that, well, for me, it's my clients, my older clients' kids calling me up now wanting to redo houses. I go, man, I told one last week, I said, you're making me feel really old. Would you just call someone else? I didn't really. But there's a different generation of home buyer. There's a different, and I guess that changes with each one. I've worked now for 3 generations. I'm in my 40th year. So I've worked basically for 3 generations of home buyers.
Well, each generation has its own influences as well, right? So you have, the greatest generation that was influenced so much by the Great Depression and wars. So they had to figure out how to use to the best of their ability, make a home out of what they had, right? So, you took everyday objects and you repurposed them to be other things because that's what
You didn't throw everything away.
you didn't throw everything away. And then we moved on to the new hotness, right? The 50s and 60s, 70s, where everything was new and fairly inexpensive. And so newer, better, right? And anyway, and now that's right. It's interesting. I think that part of the PC world that we're going to see, the post-COVID world, will be maybe a boomerang back to how do we make the most out of what we had. Homes will benefit from that.
I think you really hit something that's right on it, that each generation deals with a challenge. Ours right now is COVID, but we've been through 9/11. We've been through lots of stuff. Our generation has, and it really affects how they see the world.
Absolutely, it's their filter. It's what they see. And going back to home and the desire for so much to have a new home, I think HGTV had a great influence.
Huge impact.
A great influence. And going back to your original chat about remodeling, you have found the same, I'm sure. There's different perspectives, filters of what remodeling means. Some home buyers, future remodelers, wannabe remodelers, believe that remodeling happens in a 20-minute show segment,
Yeah.
not 20 weeks.
Yes, I know. I've had to have that conversation.
and some people are much more pragmatic, and they're like, no, our tolerance level is fresh paint, done. And then there's that next level, fresh paint and countertops. And then there's the next level. And then there's, of course, what you were talking about with the 80s house. And that's where they dig in and they're like, no, we want to do this.
Yeah, right. And it's and then you throw in complex building codes now.
Correct.
I mean, there are complex building codes, and I have to deal occasionally with a building inspector, a young building inspector, who absolutely does not understand what I'm saying, because I'm talking about something I did in the 80s, and he's like, huh? he just
What's a
doesn't.
rotary phone? Yeah.
that thing. And so there's a lot of challenges when you're remodeling an old house. Another challenge that people have in remodeling older homes, historic homes, is simply materials and craftsmen, tradespeople that understand how to work with that style. I think it takes a very special type of experience and tradecraft to go into a house that's 100 years old, and when you walk away, you don't want anybody to know you ever worked on it. You want people to walk in and go, wow, this house is really well preserved.
Right.
That's my goal.
That is supreme. Yes.
Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard to do.
It's not easy.
And we don't have the craftsmen or the materials necessarily.
Well, it's not readily apparent. You have to do a little digging. Dallas is blessed, and that is we have many tradespeople that are historic home specialists to a certain degree. We have several great architectural antique spots. Discount Home Warehouse is one of my favorites. They're over on Empire, and they're a blast. They actually started off as being wreckers. They were paid to come in and destroy old homes, and it broke their hearts. And so they started this whole business now where basically they wheel and deal and say, okay, fine, we'll tear down this house, but we get to keep everything.
Well, and we've had people like that, of course, for years and years. When I first started, and I was doing a lot of houses in Oak Cliff, and we would go to the salvage companies, and they saw a business. There's a couple of them that I could name that it's maybe still be in business. I don't know.
And there's I can't remember their name, but there's a millwork company, millwork in Oak Cliff. Speaking of Oak Cliff, that has the original templates that they used to cut much of the millwork that's on Swiss Avenue. And so they're being called now, 100 years later, to help resuscitate or repair a Swiss Avenue house. And they, in fact, cut that millwork originally.
There was an old guy down there by Methodist Hospital named Lil Cox, who used to make all the, his dad, in around the turn of the century, turn of the last century, his dad made all of the screens and screen doors for all these houses around Dallas, Oak Cliff.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And when you'd walk into his mill, all of those, the mill heads were all hanging. They were all hanging down from the ceiling with labels on them. So you'd walk in and have to kind of duck around them and everything.
Wow.
He was fantastic.
Wow, what a treat.
And he made my shutters, and we used to make all our shutters out of cypress. And, we were able, up into the 90s, we were able to really replicate everything because we had those old guys there, and they knew exactly what they were. It was really, really fascinating talking to them because of their history. But when you walk through their mill and you saw all those cutter heads that were hanging, that were the old original trim, the crown molds and the base molds and all of that
the different
stuff.
reliefs.
You were looking at history. It was really amazing.
Give you shivers.
Yeah. It was fantastic. They're harder and harder to find, but there's still some there.
There are some.
We have a challenge in materials just because, and it's probably a good thing that we're not going down, mowing down big, beautiful trees in the Amazon like we were. I don't think we are anyway. And so we don't have access to a lot of things, or it's a lot more specialized if we do. So that's just a different challenge that, like you say, we're overcoming in different ways. How is the preservation attitude in Dallas, in your opinion?
It has improved quantifiably since the 70s when it first began. In the 70s, it was started by Virginia McAllister, who I am sad to say recently moved on. April of this year, we lost her. Virginia literally wrote the book on old houses. It's called Field Guide to American Homes. If you adore homes, it should be dog-eared and on your bookshelf. And it is just a walk through
Memory lane.
memory lane. And if you want to actually walk through a field guide to American homes in 3D, actually, if you'd like to get out of your house and go for a drive, then please go to Swiss Avenue in Dallas. Swiss Avenue is, in fact, that book in real life, because that's what she did. Virginia McAllister grew up on Swiss Avenue, surrounded by these amazing, magnificent homes. And Swiss Avenue is a jewel that so many people, unfortunately, don't know about. So now you will be one of the cool kids in the in crowd to know. It is the highest concentration of individual illustrative of American architectural styles in the country. It is so unique, in fact, that Sherwin-Williams has a national contest every year of who can use their paint in the most original and unique ways, and usually it's a home on Swiss Avenue that wins. But it's fantastic. You've got the Greek Revival and just you name it.
And
it's
some of the
there.
finest architects in the country designed those houses.
But all that to say, it's come a long ways, but it has much more to go. Because as you said, there's so many that are getting torn down.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to close out, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Sometimes it's a question of do I call or don't I call the foundation repair company? Well, what if I tell you that I know a foundation repair company that will tell you if you don't need foundation repair? That's right. Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair has been in business for over 50 years, and they know the difference. One of the last family-owned foundation repair businesses in North Texas. Not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415. At the first sign of trouble, Hargrave uses the Chance helical pier system exclusively because it's the highest quality, most reliable helical pier money can buy. 972-442-3415 or contact them at hargravefoundation.com.
It has been a fantastic show today with Bess Dixon, and we are hoping that everybody can get back to work soon and stay healthy and love your family, love your loved ones. We all need each other right now, so let's not forget that. Bess, thank you so much for showing us, for coming in today. It was so much fun. You're an amazing lady, and we have your contact information up if anyone wants to get hold of you. And thank you to our audience. Thank you to On Air Media, and of course, Ziggy Becker, who is our engineer. And thank you to our audience and especially to our audience. And thank you to all of our sponsors who have stuck with us through all of this. We're looking forward to many more shows together. So until next week, this is Alex Guthrie signing off. I'll see you on the comeback.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.